For most of history, the masculine ideal meant proportion, strength, and capability, not swollen, chemically inflated muscles. From Greek statues to early strongmen to Hollywood's leading men before steroids, men built physiques that were powerful, balanced, and recognizably human. That standard has been hijacked in the modern era, where steroid-fueled hypertrophy dominates films, gyms, and social media. Not only is it okay to reject this artificial illusion of masculinity, such rejection is long overdue. We need to reclaim the pre-steroid ideal as our guide, a natural standard of proportion and balance that inspires sustainable progress, genuine health, and self-respect. In 1935, two chemists synthesized testosterone. Their work on sex hormone revolutionized science and earned them the 1939 Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Within decades of its discovery, synthetic testosterone was used to boost strength in competitive weightlifting and build larger muscles in bodybuilding. By the mid-20th century, anabolic steroids had transformed physiques, shaping the idealized images seen on magazine covers, movie screens, and billboards. It wasn't long before other sports and Hollywood took notice. The use of steroids and testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, is now widespread, permeating various sectors of society. Professional athletes use these substances for a competitive edge. Hollywood actors rely on TRT and anabolic aids for superhero physiques, and fitness influencers mask chemical enhancements with claims of discipline. Steroid use is also common among law enforcement and firefighters. Even high school athletes turn to performance-enhancing drugs for scholarships and recognition. This has redefined masculinity around an unnatural, often unhealthy, unsustainable, and potentially fatal ideal. We've drifted from reason and need to recalibrate, not chasing nostalgia, but seeking balance. Do steroid-fueled muscles really define strength or manhood? Mike Mentzer, even at the peak of his bodybuilding career, argued they don't. The historical pivot from organic to pharmaceutical. Pharmacology rarely transforms culture overnight. Instead, it seeps in where advantages compound: sport, competition, entertainment. Strength sports and bodybuilding were first, because strength and size are visible and measurable. Hollywood followed more gradually, rewarding extraordinary bodies because they sell tickets. By the 1980s, chemically enhanced physiques were increasingly visible on screen and in print, reshaping the collective imagination. Before that pivot, the male ideal looked different. Eugene Sandow, Arthur Saxon, George Hackenschmidt, and other turn-of-the-century strongmen built bodies for performance. Before steroids spread to Tinseltown, leading men like Burt Lancaster, a former acrobat, Johnny Weissmuller, an Olympic swimmer, or a young Marlon Brando who lifted weights, appeared lean, capable, and broad-shouldered, athletic, not swollen. Contrast that with the steroidal behemoths of today, bodybuilders inflated like Belgian blue bulls. The contrast illustrates the pivot clearly, from organically strong to pharmaceutically inflated. Why men pursue extreme muscle. Why do men chase exaggerated muscularity, even when studies show women prefer leaner, more natural physiques? Evolutionary psychology provides insight. In ancient times, larger size signaled dominance and protection, traits that inspired fear in rivals and confidence in mates seeking to raise children safely. Today, financial stability far outweighs muscle mass for family survival, yet an outdated instinct drives some men to equate hypertrophy with desirability. The irony is stark. Show most women a photo of Marlon Brando in his prime next to a modern Mr. Olympia, and Brando's athletic build wins nearly every time. Surveys back this up. Even the golden era bodybuilders, often seen as more balanced, don't fare much better. A 2025 Foxhound Studio survey of over 500 women found 54% favored Brad Pitt's lean Fight Club physique. 37% preferred an MMA fighter's athletic frame, but Frank Zane, a three-time Mr. Olympia known for his relatively modest mass, scored just 1%, trailing even average builds. Men overestimated women's interest in extreme muscle by 40%, wrongly assuming bodybuilders would rank highest. This pursuit of size is often a cycle of male validation, driven more by locker room approval than genuine appeal. The cost is steep: compromised health, eroded identity, and a hollow chase for meaning. The classical ideal: proportion, not excess. The pursuit of the ideal male body begins not with current bodybuilding, but in antiquity. Ancient Greek sculptors enshrined the male form with strength, youth, and proportion. Polykleitos' canon described beauty as the harmony of ratios. The head as 1/7 of body height, the torso and legs balanced, the shoulders broad but proportionate. Vitruvius later mapped the male body into both square and circle, proclaiming it the model for architecture itself. Renaissance thinkers revived the idea. Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man illustrated that the human body embodies universal harmony. Arm span equals height. The head is 1/8 of total stature. The foot 1/6. Da Vinci's point was not hypertrophy, but proportion. Beauty lies in balance. These ideals endured for centuries. What they celebrated was achievable, a body built through sufficient training, discipline, and balance. These are not just historical curiosities. They should be the guiding benchmarks for men training today. Contrast this with modern chemically inflated physiques, which break proportion and defy harmony in the pursuit of mass. Steroids, what they actually do. Steroids don't just enhance training, they rewrite the rules. A pivotal 1996 study in the New England Journal of Medicine showed that men on 600 milligrams of testosterone weekly gained more muscle without training than men who trained natural. With training, their gains more than tripled. The message was unmistakable. Pharmacology could achieve in months what natural effort could never reach in a lifetime. But this came at a cost. Testosterone in supraphysiologic doses accelerates androgen-sensitive prostate cancer, increases cardiovascular risks, and disrupts natural hormone production. In the pursuit of hypertrophy, many sacrifice not only balance, but health itself. And when masculinity is redefined around drug-built bodies, men are not only chasing an illusion, they are sacrificing their health for an ideal that is unnatural, unsustainable, and hollow. The distortion machine. The modern physique ideal isn't simply the result of unnatural gains owing to the use of steroids. It's the result of stacking distortions. Stagecraft, lighting, water manipulation, carbohydrate cycling, and temporary pumps create hyper-detailed looks that are unsustainable. Digital curation. Even natural influencers make use of angles, apply skin smoothing or sharpening filters, and delete the 99 shots that didn't make the cut. Social feeds deliver only the peak moments of thousands of lifters, compressing survivorship bias into an endless scroll. Niche style drift. As bodybuilding pursued extremes on the competitive stage, the mainstream inherited the aesthetic without the asterisks. The baseline that young men see as the standard for male physiques is not the average outcome of diligent training. It's the outlier, usually chemically assisted, captured at peak condition, and then post-processed. When you stack those layers, the normal a teenager sees today is thoroughly abnormal. The psychological cost is real: feelings of inadequacy, disordered eating, overtraining, and the belief that effort is futile unless it produces an extraordinary transformation. These distortions don't just reshape physiques, they warp masculinity itself, teaching boys that natural strength and balance are never enough. Mike Mentzer, the rebel inside the machine. Enter Mike Mentzer. At 5'8" and 220 pounds of sculpted muscle, He was awarded no less than 4 perfect scores throughout his amateur and professional bodybuilding career. He competed in an era when steroids had already permeated bodybuilding, and he himself was not immune to their use. Yet, unlike many of his peers, Mentzer was reflective, questioning the artificiality of his profession and its deeper meaning. In a 1980 interview with the Oakland Tribune, just months before the 1980 Mr. Olympia contest, Mentzer shared his longing to step away from bodybuilding. Quote, "I'm looking forward to retiring as a bodybuilder, of losing a lot of this muscle and seeing what it's like to be a normal person. A bodybuilder is not a normal person. I don't want to be a 35-year-old competitive bodybuilder." Close quote. He envisioned himself studying psychiatry, sitting on a beach in the Bahamas, letting his muscles shrink, and rediscovering his humanity. "One of the things I'm interested in," he added, "is the effect on my own psyche and self-esteem that a smaller body will bring. I want to see my own reaction." His words were not just fatigue, they were profound insight, recognizing that the hypertrophied body was neither sustainable nor necessarily desirable. This is an extraordinary confession from a man at the top of his sport, acclaimed as a 10 in a culture that worshipped physical perfection. Mentzer enjoyed the admiration at times, but he admitted it could also be tedious, and he didn't see himself getting satisfaction from it forever. Here was a champion who could look past the mirror and the applause, who dared to ask, "What kind of a man am I when the muscles are gone?" In an article he wrote entitled Males, Muscles, and Masculinity, Mentzer critiqued the Type A obsession with winning, possessions, and hypertrophy. He argued that such men, reliant on muscles for validation, neglected their inner lives. Though an atheist, he spoke of spirit, the part of man that allows him to truly know himself. Quote, "A man that spends all his time tending his muscles while allowing his inner landscape to lie fallow will inevitably end up spiritually bereft, unable to enjoy the fruits of his labor." Close quote. He urged a redefinition of masculinity around balance, resilience, intellect, relationships, authenticity. He warned that reducing manhood to size and aggression was both impoverishing and dangerous. Heavy duty and the minimalist prescription. By the 1990s, Mentzer had turned his focus from competitive bodybuilding to training ordinary men. His heavy-duty philosophy emphasized intensity over volume and recovery over endless hours. He cautioned natural trainees against mimicking routines designed for steroid users.
The reason some bodybuilders have gained muscle with volume training relates to the fact that steroids act primarily as recovery ability enhancers. Were those same bodybuilders to train for 2 hours a day, 6 days a week without steroids, they would begin to lose muscle mass almost immediately. Heavy-duty, high-intensity training is tailor-made for the non-steroid natural bodybuilder because of the painstaking precaution to properly regulate the volume and frequency of exercise to prevent overtraining. I'd like to warn the neophyte bodybuilder that those outlandish routines you read about in certain muscle magazines, which advocate that you train like the top champs for hours every day, were developed with the explicit understanding that steroid use increases recovery ability or exercise stress tolerance manyfold, yet continue to be promulgated by unscrupulous publishers who refuse to inform their readers, the majority of whom are natural, non-steroid bodybuilders, that the top champs who employ them are drug users.
To Mentzer, balance mattered. A man should not spend his entire life under fluorescent lights, trapped in a cycle of lifting, eating, and sleeping for hypertrophy alone. Life had more to offer: art, talents, relationships, experiences. To develop one's mind along with one's body was, in Mentzer's view, the true path to wholeness. This was sage counsel, not just for bodybuilding, but for masculinity itself. Muscles may impress, but they do not make the man. By advocating a sane, sustainable approach, Mentzer was not just rethinking training, he was redefining masculinity as something rooted in proportion, resilience, and authenticity rather than endless hypertrophy. Realistic expectations: what natural progress looks like. Anchoring to pre-enhancement physiques resets expectations. Year 1, rapid neural gains, 11 to 17.6 pounds of lean mass, with strength jumps, a bodyweight bench press, 1.5 times bodyweight deadlift. Years 2 to 3, slower gains, another 4.4 to 10 pounds of lean mass, improved proportions, and stronger relative lifts. Years 4 and onward, refinement, a physique that looks timeless rather than inflated. As Mike Mentzer himself put it in a 1990 interview,
but then again, anybody can improve. You may not become a muscular marvel, but you can improve your muscular tone and lose fat.
His words underscore the point. The important thing is that you improve to the best of your natural potential, not that you look like a steroid-bloated bodybuilder. The cultural dividend of sanity. Choosing natural ideals has broader benefits. Retention. Men stay in the game longer when expectations are realistic. Performance focus. Chasing strength produces better bodies than obsessing over inches of arm circumference. Health preservation. Avoiding unnecessary pharmacology reduces risk. Broader masculinity. Earlier physiques telegraph competence and capability, not mere display. This is why Mentzer's message is more relevant today than ever. A natural ideal is not nostalgic, it's a public health intervention. A return to normalcy. In the end, masculinity is not found in steroidal size or the illusion of perfection, but in balance, discipline, and authenticity. The bodies of Greek athletes, Renaissance ideals, early strongmen, and even pre-steroid Hollywood icons reminds us that true strength was once defined by what was attainable through natural effort. Mike Mentzer himself, a champion who questioned the culture of excess, pointed us back toward proportion, health, and inner growth. Echoing the wisdom carved into the temple of Apollo at Delphi, know thyself and nothing in excess, we see that masculinity is not measured in muscle mass, but in authenticity, balance, and self-knowledge. Reclaiming these timeless standards allows us to move beyond illusions and embrace a masculinity that is sustainable, balanced, and profoundly human.